So that's the first thing that outsourcing brings. It's about changing the cost structure, allowing organisations to focus on frontline services or their core business. The second is that business activities that are outsourced to a service provider are at the core of what that service provider does, and therefore they're investing in that. So whereas the back office of a telecoms provider or a utility firm does not get the priority of investment, because that investment is actually going on the next product design or the better improved customer service, what we are doing and other service providers are doing is investing in those back office functions to make them more efficient, to make them more automated, to provide better management information. So for example, if I take the BBC's aim is to become, or retain its role as the leading broadcaster in the world. It does this by investing in content and in technology delivery. What we do is that we ensure that when Jeremy Clarkson's programme is aired in Korea, or he sells a video in Australia, that the artists that appear in that programme are actually paid each time the sales are made. Because that's something that's fundamental to us and we invest in, but the BBC wants to be fantastic about delivering news, delivering programmes. So the third advantage of outsourcing to somebody who treats the back office as their core is that they invest in the people. So we invest in people so that they become motivated and empowered to make improvements. And I'm going to give probably a funny, quirky example here. We have people who work in our mail rooms. They're handling millions of items of paper, perhaps supplier invoices. We've taken the time to take the people through understanding operational management, which is a bit of a torturous subject for those of you in your MBA courses, I have to say. But the principles of Lean Sigma and how to make improvements. And this team is now re-energised. They're so motivated. They've completely redesigned the way they operate, the way they work. They've removed all backlogs. They've improved the accuracy of tasks. So again, any students of Frederick Winslow Taylor here will immediately, I think, relate to that. And I think the other academic point I'll cite here is the Hawthorne experiments. This, for those that don't know, it was a situation where scientists decided to have a look and see if they could determine whether productivity was changed by turning on lights and changing the temperature in a room. But what they actually found out, that it was the fact that the scientists were actually monitoring and looking at the people that had the impact, not the ability to change the environment. And I think the fact that we are interested in the people and empowering them is having huge impacts. So the fourth and last one here is really delivery. And offshoring, it will remain, it will continue to grow. I think today, sometimes it's almost a tick in the box. I think everybody pretty much is doing it. I know, our operation in India was set up in '87. And I think success really today is not about having the tick in the box, it's making it work effectively. So it's about having the methodologies, having the global mindsets, so managers who can operate in a globally diverse way, culturally aware people, have the ability to have global process owners, global service owners, to share best practice. I think it's interesting though that outside the UK there's a few scary practices that are going on. For example, Nortel staff in France were under threat from, not from outsourcing but just loss of jobs, threatened to blow up the factory, something we don't get hopefully over here. There's a worrying number of employees of France Telecom who've been committing suicide, citing workplace stress and job worries. So I think we have to be conscious of looking at what's retained onshore, but offshoring will definitely continue and definitely grow. And I think you also have to look at David Ricardo and the comparative advantage perspective here. I think you find now that countries like India and other countries have been developing core competencies which will only grow. So where will outsourcing go in the future? Well, I think the credit crisis, we're kind of coming out of that. We're already seeing our clients moving away from cost savings for survival to cost flexibility in the business model. And I think having a proportion of business activities that can be bought on a more flexible basis, I'm not necessarily talking about cloud, which I know Richard here is an expert in, but buying services on a more flexible basis I think will definitely happen. It will allow organisations to react better to the next upswing or even downturn. And if the economic recovery continues, I think the things that will happen, sharing will increase, and we can't afford not to. And I mean that focused on the public sector. This follows the Gershon report, it follows some Reed's report in the Operational Efficiency Review. It'll happen because the taxpayer wants the assurance that when he spends his tax pound, he's getting as much of that tax pound going on frontline services. And more than that, I think the taxpayer demands transparency of costs for what they're spending. If you're looking for your passport online, or if you're in a slightly more unfortunate situation looking for your job online, and you haven't bought Mark's earlier book, Who Moved My Job, check out the DirectGov site. We created this for the government because the government has hundreds and hundreds of websites to reach the public, which is crazy, really. So we're trying to set up a shared service on the IT side to actually bring some of these public sector services together. I think the next thing is that simplicity will drive automation. There's a huge amount of complexity out there, and it's driven by legacy. Many organisations have grown over hundreds of years. They've grown through acquisition. If you're working for a company who employs, let's say, 50,000 people, ideally everyone should be treated in the same way. But you'll probably find that there are tens and sometimes hundreds of different employment terms. This adds a huge burden, a huge cost to business. And if you get simplification, you can then automate. And the automation will drive commoditisation, but that will be applied selectively on a kind of an 80-20 rule, I think. And as the cost of automation fall, so it'll become easier to automate more and more, and costly exceptions will reduce. But there will always be exceptions, which will keep all the procurement guys in the audience happy, I would say. And I think the final point is it's going to be about the next big thing. Everybody has a next big thing, and this has been bubbling under for some time, I have to say. Hasn't quite reached its potential yet, but it's unlocking the value from business data. Again, I think this will be selectively applied, but this is data analytics. There is so much data about a business if you can really actually get to the heart of it. So again, to give you an example, suppose you outsource your HR department. Nice big cost saving in the deal, and cost saving says we're going to save you 10% of your HR costs. Great, fantastic, we'll buy it. However, if you can actually understand more about your HR information, about the whole business, look at your HR dashboards, and thereby inform your policy, perhaps to cut, for example, annual absenteeism by 10%, you could be ensuring the survival of the business. That has a far greater impact than just taking cost savings out. So it's been a race, I think, I hope, because I haven't had another prompt from Mark's great computer. It's been a race through some current trends, but let me just thank Mark for inviting me. I've known him probably for about a decade now, since I started getting into this, and I think he too. He's one of the most networked people I know. He's also one of the most technologically connected people I know, so I'm really looking forward to what you've got to say and to share with us tonight. Good luck.